Hey everyone, welcome to a Friday night. There we go. They got the light fixed. This is a Friday night town hall. I want to thank folks for watching and joining us tonight. If you do have comments, we are live right now on YouTube, X, and Facebook. We should be able to see your comments coming in through StreamYard, but we're also checking out the actual feeds to make sure if you are asking a question, we're getting to it. I'm going to have a friend of mine, my lovely media coordinator. She's awesome. She was also handled my media during my Senate campaign, and before that was an amazing secretary for my state party, and that's the lovely Amber Howell. So we're going to throw her on here as well. Hi, Amber.
Hi, guys.
Hey, thanks for joining us. Let me just pop on here so I can make sure I can see all of our lovely windows. And what I'm doing, which is going to be weird because I'm going to be seeing my own live video in the background here. So that'll be fun. But yeah, so if you are watching this, make sure you share it. I see we already got 30 viewers there. Make sure you're sharing the stream, sharing it out to other friends, other delegates. That's who I'm really wanting to reach out here today is delegates and party members to talk about the campaign. So with that being said, I'm going to go for just a couple minutes to sell the campaign just a little bit. First, if you see right underneath my name, go to votechaseoliver.com/convention. If I can share my screen here, I'll show you what that looks like. StreamYard loves to, there we go, right there. Chase Oliver for president. So if you go to votechaseoliver.com/convention, you need there our convention info, our plans of why we want to attract Gen Z voters, our most recent ad, all kinds of cool stuff. So definitely check that out, votechaseoliver.com/convention. But if you have any questions, feel free to start asking them right here. I would love to answer those for you. But really, it can be about policy, it can be about campaign strategy, it can be personal questions. And Amber is here to help me facilitate through these comments and filter through them. I will pop them up on the screen and kind of keep me on track. Hello, Chris. I see hi, Chris, or hi, Chase from YouTube. Hello, Chris. How you doing? Thank you, Scientific Libertarian 2.0, for sharing on X and Facebook, helping to spread the word there. We just got back from our 50th state campaigning as a campaign in Hawaii. It was awesome. Got to meet some awesome libertarians there. If you want to see a great YouTube video, Chris, you're there on YouTube. Search Chase Oliver in Oahu, or on Oahu, rather. And we did about a 45-minute conversation with folks. All right, let's pop this question up here. It's a good one, Amber. Why are you the best person to be president of the United States? Well, I don't think there's one best person really to be president of the United States. It's a huge job. But why do I think I'm the best person in this election? Well, first off, generationally, I think I'm a voice that we haven't had in our presidential elections in a long time. We haven't had a millennial running for office so vigorously. And the reason why I want to be the Libertarian candidate is I think our metrics of our campaign have shown we have the energy, the enthusiasm, the attitude to get out there and push a really positive message forward. It's why we've campaigned in all 50 states. We have a great, we're the first campaign to have donors in all 50 states plus DC. We have 500 volunteers and an amazing staff. I think really if you look at every metric of what you would look for in a campaign, you're going to see that we are the strongest libertarian contender, and we're ready to go on day one. We've been preparing since earlier this year to reach out to them. So I think I'm the best candidate for the Libertarians because we are running the best campaign. And I think we're the best campaign in the general election because the libertarian philosophy, our principles, are the solutions we need to many of the problems we face. And it would be a refreshing change of pace from the statism and authoritarianism that we see coming out of the Republicans and Democrats. And frankly, much of Robert Kennedy's platform is just basically washed over Democratic policies made to look fancy and new. What do you think, Amber? Any other things I need to catch up on? Did I hit it all?
I think that's most of it.
All right. Well, we got some other questions coming in. By the way, hope you have an amazing day today and look forward to you becoming the nominee. Well, I hope you have an amazing day, Gregory, and I look forward to becoming the nominee so I can serve our party and push a positive message forward that spreads the message of liberty and presents a real contrast to the broken old two-party system. Dave, Dave asks, what is your pitch to college kids protesting? Well, that is a great question, Dave. I think it's obviously been in the news here that, what's going on in campuses across the country is obviously a response to what's going on in Gaza. I think the first thing I can say to students who are protesting is I am on your side. I want to end this war. I want to cease fire. I want to see peace in the region. And I think airstriking so many innocent people is a crime. It is wrong. And it is frankly crazy that anybody thinks that that's going to make Israel safer or the people of Israel safer. It's actually making their lives much more dangerous, because the more they pummel Gaza and the more they attack them, the further will lead to rise of radicalization within that population. I mean, put your shoes. If your wife or your kid or your brother died in an airstrike, that might radicalize you against the government that did that. And so we need to be urging a ceasefire and peace. And my appeal to these colleges, I've been protesting war since I was their age. That's what got me politically motivated. Before I was even a libertarian affiliated person, I was an anti-war affiliated person, and I was opposing the neocon war machine of George W. Bush. And so I would be right there with them, protesting alongside them. I believe in that activism. And I believe so long as you're peacefully protesting in a nonviolent way, you should have your voice heard. And peaceful civil disobedience exists for a reason. But you have to be willing to take the consequences. That does mean getting, you throwing yourself into the cogs of the machine for the purposes of peaceful, nonviolent resistance. And I think that's the best way to fight this thing, not to be violent, not to attack, Jewish members of faculty, things like that. Frankly, some of the loudest voices for pieces that we hear are Jewish voices, and they're coming from both within and outside of Israel. And so I would urge them to fight this fight in a peaceful, nonviolent way. And in doing so, hopefully encourage them to support peace. Let me see what else we got going on here. Thank you for the question, though. Anti-war to the core, certainly. And let's see. How will you balance conservative and liberal views? Oh, there we go. So, Philip, this is a question we get asked a bit. How are we going to balance my conservative and liberal views, and how do I plan on selling those to libertarian delegates? Well, here's the truth. It doesn't really matter what my personal views are. The way we sell liberty to the masses is to let people understand that so long as you're living your life in peace, you can be as conservative or as liberal, if that's the word you want to use. I would say progressive or libertine or whatever term you want to use. Freewheeling, but you can be as square inside the box or right outside the box as you want to be, so long as you do that in peace. So long as you live your life and don't insist on using the power of the state to make others live their lives the way you see fit. I understand there's going to be a lot of different people in this world. And if I can sell to the delegates that I want to be a unifying force of our party, I don't really care where you came to liberty from. I care that you're at liberty now. That's the most important thing, that you care about your individual rights and the individual rights of other people, because that's the most important key to liberty, is that it's not just liberty for me and, not for thee. It's liberty for all people, whether you're conservative or whether you're not. And I would hope that the delegates can see my enthusiasm in pushing this message that you live your life. If it's differently, that's okay. Because, I don't want the whole world to live exactly alike. I think that would be both boring and terrifying if everyone lived exactly the same way. And so I'm hoping that regardless of if you're a conservative delegate or a more liberal or whatever words you want to use delegate, that you can see the value in pushing a message of liberty for all people. There we go. Where's the most amount of comments? Looks like the most amount of comments are coming on. Someone asked that. It doesn't appear to be live on Facebook, but I see questions coming in on Facebook. But it does seem to be like most of the questions are coming from Facebook and YouTube right now. We haven't gotten any X ones yet. Let me see if there's anything on the X here, because I can see it. Nope, no comments yet, but some retweets. Thank you for retweeting them. I still use the word retweet because repost sounds too generic. Here we go.
Go with Michelle's question next.
Oh, yeah. Let me see. Where's Michelle's question? What's the feedback? There we go. What is the feedback you've gotten from the largest up-and-coming voting bloc, Gen Z? Well, thank you, Michelle. Thank you for throwing that question right into my wheelhouse. I've gotten great response from a lot of Gen Zers. Most recently, I have a supporter in Texas. Well, he's not even a supporter. He's a libertarian in Texas. He just happens to be a history teacher, and he shared our debate had in Texas with the Libertarians, myself, Mike Termott, Lars Mapstead, and Michael Rechtenwald. And he polled his students. He said, who do you think resonates with you the most? And 11 to 1 to 0 to 0. So 12 students. I got 11 of their votes. But even beyond that, I see young people coming up at all of my campaign stops. You know, I actually had a young man come 2 hours. He didn't drive. He had his parents drive 2 hours because he didn't have his license yet. He was 15. To come out and say, hey man, I saw your message on Facebook and I really, really liked it. I saw your, when you debated in the Senate race, and I really liked it. You know, so I've gotten that positive feedback from Gen Z from our kind of messaging. They like that positive messaging. They like to hear something different than just mudslinging and the two-party hash that they hear all the time. So I think we've gotten really good. We had like 60 people at a university in Franklin, Massachusetts. That was great. Dean College. That was awesome. So I think we can continue to reach out to these young people with a message that's positive, refreshing, and lets them live their own life the way they want to and not be told what to do. Because Lord knows young people don't want to be told what to do. And here's something that's important to folks. You know, talking about Gen Z, we poll on the Facebook and on Twitter, and we asked people, when did you become a libertarian, right? And I think the biggest age group, if I'm not mistaken, Amber, was 18 to 29. That was the biggest age group that responded. Well, that's the age group we need to reach out to as a candidate if we want to grow the party. That's when most of us became libertarians. Well, if that's when most of us became libertarians, it stands to reason that's the generation we need to jump into the hardest to get more libertarians out of that age range, bring them out of the two-party system and make them into lifelong activists, just like many of us. And so I'm definitely going to be reaching out to Gen Z. Good one. Let's see. I'm not answering that question, scientific libertarian.
I was going to ask.
It's clearly sucking up. No, but thank you for it. Can I speak a little bit about defund the school and fund the student? Thank you, Logan. Education is a very important thing to me. Now, ideally, folks, I'm a minarchist. In the perfect world, all education would be voluntarily funded by a community with a vested interest in making sure the young people in their communities are learning, right? But we don't live in the ideal minarchist world. We live in a world with a giant public school infrastructure that, even at the federal level with the Department of Education, is really running roughshod over the education marketplace in our country. It's basically a monopoly, nearly, you know. And so if I could do anything, I would defund the entire federal Department of Education. And I think a way to transition ourselves to that full minarchist ideal is if we are going to use tax money to fund schools, it shouldn't be funding a school building or a school system that's run by a bureaucracy and red tape and a school board. It should be sent directly to the student and their parent to determine where they're going to send their kids to school. Whether that's the school that already exists, the public school would then become, you know, a privately funded school where there's already a building, infrastructure, bus routes, all those things. And if you live in a place with good public schools, you'll probably just keep going there. But if you live in Atlanta where the public schools were so bad that the teachers were cheating to get their test scores up and they got busted under RICO statutes, you know, if you're a parent in that school system, you might say, I'll take my money elsewhere. And you're going to see educational entrepreneurs popping up all over the country to fill those voids and to create good schools. And the best schools will survive. And the worst schools will either adapt to those better practices or fall by the wayside. It's a much better way to hold schools accountable. And it doesn't just help the student and the parent, which it certainly does. Like if you're a parent whose kid is like an amazing performer, maybe you want them to go to a performing arts academy. Or maybe if your kid is like brilliant in engineering, you want them to go to a STEM school so they can really harness that talent. Or heck, maybe your kid needs more regimentation and you want to send them to an academy or a preparatory school so they can prepare themselves for college because they need to learn that discipline and those lessons to be able to prepare themselves for secondary education. Whatever it is, you as a parent should determine that. And this also helps educators, right? If you're a teacher, I know a lot of them that got into school legitimately to do a good thing. But, you know, unfortunately, they got stuck in a shitty school system and now they're stuck there and we want to free them up too. So it helps educators too. Now I'm going to pick So I have my bullhorn, you guys. You may have seen it in my most recent ad, but I've decided I need to decorate this thing. It looks a little plain. So luckily the Radical Caucus, they gave me a whole bunch of stickers at their last convention I was at. So I'm going to pull 2 random stickers, and I'm going to just let you guys vote on which ones we want to do. So I have nullify, good, general, just nullify, or I have do not tax weed. So just feel free to comment which one you think you want to see on my bullhorn next, and I'll throw it on there. But I'll answer another question in the meantime. Let's see. Did we got a good one? Oh, here we go. Somebody asked, who are the vice presidential candidates of the Libertarian Party, Jack? Thank you for asking. The real question is there some that are already running, and there are lots who are probably going to announce at some point, or will maybe, if they're a presidential candidate, as commonly occurs, if they don't win the nomination, they would drop down. I am not in a position to answer that question yet, because I think I'm going to win the nomination. We'll wait what conditions see for that. If that were to occur, I don't think it's going to, but right now we have a few people running. Actually, we got a guy named Clint Russell. He's a podcast host. Liberty Lock Pod on Twitter. We have Tub Rortaba. He is a pastor out of Jacksonville, Florida. He ran for Jacksonville City Council. He's a nice guy. Last convention I was at with him, he actually had a church running, which I appreciated, because I don't get to go to church often enough running for president. You often are on the road or on a plane Sunday mornings. So shout out to Tub for that. Who else do I think there was? I think those are the only 2 that are like officially announced, right? Maybe there's more.
Those are the only ones I've heard of, but people announce closer to convention and even like right before.
Yeah, usually that's how it works with the VP candidates. I mean, last time around, and then Larry Sharp. Why am I forgetting? Jesus, Larry Sharp is running with another candidate. He has decided to be on a ticket with another candidate. He's a nice guy, but I don't know. He did something similar 4 years ago, and his candidate did not win the top line nomination. He declined to keep running, so he would have to know if he's going to keep running if that were to occur. And then, of course, like I said, we're going to have more people probably announcing. That's usually like a right-up to convention kind of thing. But we'll see. We'll see who announces and see how it goes. Look forward to seeing who we can work with on a ticket. Really, whoever it is, I'm going to be frank with you. Whoever is my running mate, whoever the delegates select to be my running mate, they better be ready to work hard, represent our party in a professional way, and be ready to be positive in a powerful way. So those are my first hurdles you'd have to pass. You're going to have the energy to run like I did as a 50 state candidate, with a smile on your face and being professional. So let's see. I don't have a current preference of the 2 who are running right now. I'm still looking around. I'm keeping shop. Keeping my options open, folks. It's the most important thing you can do. Keep your options open. What is my? Is David Lutmer asks, what is my policy at the southern and northern border regarding border security? Do you believe there is a path to open borders in the future? Well, I first want to say this. I don't believe we need to build a wall on our northern border, as Vivek Ramaswamy advocated for when he was running for president and trying to placate the Trumpistas in his party. He didn't want to build 1 wall. He wanted to build 2 walls. That's how cool he was. We don't need to build a wall on our northern border. Canada's pretty cool. Not scared of Canadians. Not really worried about the northern border. And our southern border, the crisis that's down there is just a perfect example of government screwing things up. I believe with an Ellis Island style of immigration, we could basically have free movement of goods, labor, and capital across our border with minimal difficulty, which is exactly what our platform applies. Just come through a port of entry, declare who you are, so that way, if you're we can go through either the asylum process or return you back to your nation of origin in that case. But most people should just be able to come here and work. And agriculture is the biggest industry in Georgia, and we need that labor. We need immigrant labor. Now, what we have in our current system is these people come into the country, they work during planting and harvesting season, they return their money back home to their family, and then they stay here, even though there's not work for them. So they often end up living in really, really bad conditions, relying on charity or local government or welfare to help them out. And really what we should be allowing them to do is come here, working during planting and harvesting, take themselves and their money back home to their family, live with their family where that dollar is going to go further, directly investing capital into a developing economy who will be our trading partners, and fostering a good economy down there, and then allowing them to come and go as they please for work. I think people would rather be reunited with their families than stuck here north of the border, but just our current conditions don't allow for that. And so I believe that is a path to, allowing for that free movement that I think is right within the libertarian ideal. And thank you very much for the question. But as far as the northern border, I'm not scared of the Canucks, I also love the movie Canadian Bacon, if you've never seen it. Speaking of the northern border. Have you ever seen Canadian Bacon, Amber?
I have not.
It's a John Candy film about he's the sheriff of Niagara Falls, and this war propaganda starts from the White House to try to increase tensions with Canada, and so they think Canada's about to invade. It's a very funny movie. Here's a good question from Philip Morgan. How do I feel about being one of the youngest candidates in the 2024 general election? Well, if I'm our nominee, I will be the youngest candidate in the 2024 general election, because Robert Kennedy is 70, and the other mainline opponents are in their late 70s or early 80s. I'm exactly half Donald Trump's age on election day. So I look forward to being the youngest candidate, because I do think it's time for the millennial generation to speak up. Like, let's be real. My generation is a generation that has been being shipped around the world for the last 2 decades in the war on terror. It's my generation that's had more deployments, like more time away. Think about this. More time away to war than any other generation we've been sending our men and women to war for the last 20 years. Like, that's ridiculous. That's crazy. It's our generation that right as we were like getting out of school, wanting to start, our jobs, get involved in the economy, buy our first home, the entire real estate market fell out from underneath us, and banks got bailed out, and the regular average Joe got screwed over by the inflation that those bailouts created. And a generation right now that's raising families across the country. I have 7 nephews and nieces. I have a vested interest in fighting for a better world for them. Oh, and by the way, and not just fighting for a better world for them, but for me, I'll be alive in 30 years. Will Donald Trump be alive in 30 years? Will Joe Biden? Will Robert Kennedy? Will it be 100? But we don't know. But the truth is more than likely than not, they're not going to be here to see the ramifications of their policies. And I think if you have somebody who's young enough to have to live with the ramifications of what they've done in the office, they might take it a little more seriously and not think so short term. That's the other thing. We got to think long term. We have $34 trillion debt. We're not going to get rid of that overnight. We have to start the process now and start pushing ourselves now, so that the way the next generation has even a hope of having the prosperity that we've enjoyed, much less the prosperity of past generations that are very quickly passing the millennial generation on by. And so it's very important for us to have a younger candidate in this race. And I think it contrasts us quite well. Thank you so much we got almost 300 people watching. Keep sharing it out, you guys. This is great. Awesome. Really enjoying it.
Had a good one. It should be right up under.
Well, thank you for joining on Facebook, because there wasn't a choice to comment on X. Yeah, I only see one comment on here right now, which is, so I was already asked about VP candidates. So,
Anthony is a new libertarian and said he is happy to be volunteering for your campaign. Thank you for your contribution for that. And he said, what is something that I can tell somebody when they tell me my vote doesn't count, since it'll be for a third party?
Ooh, this is one of those questions we libertarians get a lot. And let me tell you, how many times did I get that during the Senate campaign, Amber? Like a million times?
So many.
Every media outlet. Well,
every media outlet, even the aftermath was bad. He had Democrats telling us we caused their guy to lose, and you had Republicans saying the same exact thing.
All right, I see nullify and do not tax weed. Okay, it looks like do not tax weed has won that race, but we're going to go back up here to these comments while I answer that question. When people say your vote doesn't matter, what they're saying is you should really say what I want to say, so my voice is louder, because my voice is more important than your voice. That's really what they might not be their face, but deep down, that's the message that's coming out of their mouth. And the truth is your voice does matter. Your vote does matter. Even if it's for a third party and we don't win, by pushing our policies forward, by putting them into the Overton window and shifting the conversation on policy towards a libertarian direction, that's a win. All right. And then there's a lot of other ways to win than just outright winning the White House, you guys. I would love to win the White House because I would make lots of changes on day one, like Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, Ross Ulbricht, Leonard Peltier. A lot of people would be pardoned on day one. We'd start tearing apart the war machine. But absent that, there's lots of victories we can have as a party. We can win ballot access in states. Your vote can help secure ballot access in your state. If you live in Georgia, your vote for the Libertarian presidential candidate is the vote that will determine ballot access because it's the only statewide race we have. There are other states that are like that. You can help win major party status in a state, which allows us to have access to things like the primary, which gets us media coverage. Some of my biggest media coverage in this campaign has been when I've won some of the primaries. It also allows us to do things like getting on the Iowa soapbox stage. I was the first candidate who's not a Republican or a Democrat for president to ever be on that stage. Okay, that happened because the Libertarian Party of Iowa earned major party status, and then the campaign earned the media needed to get on that stage. But it started with earning the major party status. So that's a win. Your vote matters to help do that. Your vote can help locally win electable races. There are electable races all over the country that if you vote Libertarian, they can win. All right, don't let people tell you they can't. I'll tell you one right now. There's a guy named Michael White in Arkansas. He's running for state rep. He's running in a two-way race. Don't be convinced. Don't be fooled that a vote for the Libertarian doesn't mean that your vote doesn't matter. It can absolutely matter in that race. And there are races like that all over the country. And so there are plenty of things that your vote does to help build the foundation of this party, even if we don't win the presidential election. But most importantly, I want you to know this. You are not a spoiler. You're not a spoiler. Don't let people call you a spoiler. First off, you can't spoil what is already rotten. That's the two-party system. It's rotten to the core, okay? And the only way to fix plurality voting, which is what's causing us to have people with under 50% of the vote being elected to represent 100% of the population, which is not even a tyranny of the majority, it's a tyranny of the minority. The only way to fix that is to change the way we vote. Ranked choice voting or approval voting. These are the systems that will allow us to not have the so-called spoiler effect. But I can't give that to you. I can't grant that to you. You know who can? The Republicans and Democrats in your state house. They can grant that to you. They can fix the problem, but they don't want to because by fixing the problem, it means they have a chance to lose some of their power. So they are just fine spoiling every election you vote in for the purposes of maintaining power. That should outrage you. That should encourage you to vote outside the two-party system and encourage others to do the same until they change the way we vote. And like I said in my runoff race for the Senate, runoffs will continue until liberty improves. That's the motto we run by here in Georgia. And I wish every state had at least runoffs, if not ranked choice voting, approval voting, or something better than plurality voting. Don't let anybody ever say your vote is a wasted vote. Your vote is absolutely valid and it's yours to make, not anybody else's. And I will fight for that tooth and nail forever. But thank you for the question. And thank you for being a new volunteer to the party. Thank you for joining this movement and seeing that this campaign is a positive vehicle for change. Thank you so much for coming to the party. Welcome home. Welcome home. That's what I want to say to millions of Americans who need a new place to fall. Welcome home. So let's see. What else we got here?
Dave Schrader, and I can answer this one.
Where's that?
Dave Schrader, Facebook.
I'm looking here. There it is.
What
this right here, this one?
Yep.
What do you think it will take to get more media once I win the nomination? Well, first, it's going to take an awesome media team that is being very responsive to every opportunity we have. You're looking at my media coordinator right here, Amber. She is the person that has helped me get on Rolling Stone, Vice, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the LA Times, Fox News, CNN, and so many other outlets in my Senate race and my presidential campaign. Part of that is her reaching out to those outlets. Anytime that there's an opportunity to speak, we get there. The other thing that we do is we constantly put out press releases as a campaign. Every time I travel somewhere, we let them know when I'm going to get there and what I'm going to be talking about. Every time I've traveled across the country. Has that meant that media comes flocking to me? No, but it means that we get those local reporters, the news, the local news to cover us a lot more than we would if we didn't do that work. As a great friend of mine, Chrissy Wickers, once said, a press release is free. You know, it's free to write a press release. And so that's like the first thing you want to do. And then lastly, I'm going to be tireless, man. I'm going to be waking up early, staying up late, working those 18-hour days, pressing on through and being completely available. There will be no, oh, I can't wake up at that time, or oh, that's too late for me. I am well aware that if I made the nominee, I won't be having a good night's sleep until after November, because I'm going to be busting my ass to get out there in front of as much media as possible. It also means not being afraid to do this kind of work, putting the bullhorn in your hand and getting out in the streets and being an activist. Sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you have to break through the static with a bullhorn and with people in the streets marching peacefully together. And so I will be joining any peaceful movement for liberty that exists in the streets as an activist candidate. And of course, challenging the mainline candidates to dump the commission on presidential debates and to quit being such cowards and actually debate us. The fact that we have some mainline candidates coming to our convention who are too cowardly to even say the Libertarian candidate or even offer to debate the Libertarian candidate should show you how much they're running scared. They want our voters, but they don't want our voices. And that should be the first line indicator that you should be dumping the two-party system. But yeah, we're going to keep pushing through just like we did in my Senate campaign. The Senate campaign in 22 probably earned the most media of any Libertarian race in 2022. And we're going to keep harnessing that energy going right into 2024 and beyond for the Libertarian Party. Let's see. Keep going down. We want to answer, let's see. I like the name. I'm just going to say it, Rimfire82. What are my thoughts of the other third-party bids, Kennedy, West, and Yang? Well, Yang's not running, so don't really have to worry or think about him very much. Though, if his biggest issue with the Forward Party was ranked choice voting and approval voting or something to that effect, I'm the only candidate talking about it. So if you are somebody, I welcome you, even if you're not a 100% libertarian all the time, go ahead and vote for the only candidate that's pushing for your biggest policy platform. Cornel West and Kennedy. I'll start with Cornel West. I disagree with him on a ton, obviously. He's a leftist. There's a lot of economic areas where we have agreements. But I do respect his passion for what he does. Like, I got to say, he's somebody who gets out there and does the thing. I don't agree with much of what he has to say a lot of the time in terms of certainly in terms of economics, certainly in terms of a lot of other policy. But he's also an anti-war voice. I got to appreciate that, even though his economics would probably lead to more war, more violence. Socialism is violence, you guys. And then Kennedy, Kennedy's a warmed over Democrat, man. Like, other than his anti-vax stuff, like every other policy he really has is trying to be the cool Democrat in the room. It's basically warmed over Beto O'Rourke. Like, he wants to put the government in control of the housing market. He's a big, let the government the environment problems and like putting mainline, centralized planning for the green economy, these kinds of things. So, he's just a warmed over Democrat who doesn't like vaccines. I respect each of them for running, honestly. Like, the more, in an ideal world, we have like 5, 10, viable candidates for president would weed itself down through ranked choice voting. So I welcome them to help tear down the duopoly. And I think Robert Kennedy Jr. is going to learn firsthand how horribly cumbersome ballot access law in the country. If West hasn't learned that by now, he's going to learn it soon too. So hopefully they all become ballot access advocates in the future, even if we disagree on a lot of the solutions to policies in this country. So thank you for the question.
Yeah, check YouTube. Do you have questions on YouTube?
I do. Well, that's a different one. That's just a nice comment to say. I'm trying to filter through. I got so many coming in because someone saw my animals. Sorry, I didn't see them walking behind me. I have 3 cats and a dog, you guys. Delilah is my dog, and then I have Arthur, my black cat. Dracarys is my tuxedo kitty. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, you recognize that reference.
I'm just glad Delilah got down the stairs okay this time.
Yeah. Oh my God, you guys. I was on a live stream one time and my dog was coming down the stairs, and she's 14, you guys. She's not a young puppy anymore, but she tries to act like it. And she was trying to run down the stairs and she just went bam, 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 and just ate it. And I had to stop for a second and check on my dog. Luckily, she was all good, but those kinds of things worry you. I just like this comment right here. Bobby's brainworm is younger than Chase Eller, Libertarian. I don't know. When did he get the brainworm? How old was the worm when he got it? We don't know these things. Chase Oliver is young and unbought. That is true. I am both young in terms of politics anyways, and unbought for sure. Because if you trust me, I don't got a lot of money. I'm using my savings to do this whole thing and living on a budget, you guys. Let's see. I got a question from BJ Meters on Facebook. Thoughts on Lars's approach to dedicating a 2024 campaign to winning an electoral vote in Maine? Okay, first, I have to preface this, you guys. I don't like to speak ill of my other candidates. In fact, I think Lars is a wonderful human being. He's a very nice guy. And, you know, I look forward to him continuing to be a part of our movement. Like, he's a really, really great person. I disagree with this policy of focusing so much on one or two states to win the electoral vote. You know, it would be great to win an electoral vote, and Maine has ranked choice voting. So obviously we're going to be campaigning in Maine and pushing people to make us their first choice. Maine is obviously a state we want to focus on. They have earned party status there. But I don't think it needs to be the sole focus. You know, one of the reasons why I campaigned in all 50 states is to show that a libertarian campaign can campaign in all 50 states and have an impact. And like I said, there's these other metrics that I was talking about, like ballot access, major party status, local elections, that really matter to be a campaign on the ground. And if you're focusing on 2 states out of 50, that leaves 48 where you're not placing as full a focus as you could. And areas where we have states that require that attention for ballot access, that require that attention to support down ballot candidates who can really make a difference. And, you know, I'm going to be there to support voters in Maine. I'm going to have me and my running mate, obviously, traveling all over the country. But I think solely focusing on that, I think also it's probably going to, you know, just from a strategic point of view, might lead to libertarians in other states not wanting to donate as much because they're not going to see that turn in their state. So, I mean, well, I like the guy and I think he's a great guy. And, you know, if he were to be the nominee, I'm sure he would work his butt off for liberty. I just have a different strategy for how we're going to grow the party from the foundation up. Who is going to smoke more at the convention, me or Afro Man? The answer is Afro Man. Have you ever met Afro Man? I did. The first time I met him was in 2021 at the LP, I think it was 2021, LP Alabama convention. He was the headline concert. And at first I was like, no way is Afro Man going to be here. Well, there he was. He walked into the hotel venue smoking a blunt, not caring that there was a giant no smoking sign at the door. He had a Colt 45 in his hand, head to toe in an LA Rams suit, looking like Afro Man. And I've never seen Jo Jorgensen get a contact high until she met Afro Man. He was just exuding so much THC through his just aura that people being around him just started getting giddy and wanting to eat Cheetos. And so I don't think anybody short of Cheech or Chong could probably smoke as much as Afro Man. So if you imbibe cannabis, you know, just hang around him. You'll get a contact high. Let's see. This is the easiest question ever. The best Michael Moore film. Well, it's not the anti-gun film, and it's not the film that promotes socialized medicine. It's Fahrenheit 9/11, the anti-war film. It's the only good Michael Moore film, really, in my opinion. I haven't seen all of them, but that's the only one that I really like. That was an easy question. Let's
see.
Oh, here we go. I'm going to answer 2 questions here. First one's a more personal question. Well, I'll answer 3 here. First, am I married? If so, when will we get to meet the next first gentleman? No, married. Single, tragically, but you know, when you run for president, it doesn't leave you a lot of time to date. So, you know, but if any of you has a best friend or a good-looking brother and you want to play matchmaking, no, I'm just kidding. Please don't. But you know, right now it's just me flying solo. But I love my family. I have 3 brothers. I love my parents. I see them on the regular. You know, I live not too far from them. And then I have 7 nephews and nieces that I adore, ranging from like, you know, 8 years old to 22. So we got a nice brood in my family, but none of them are I'm not currently married. No, would love to be. Great, looking for Mr. Right, but hasn't happened yet. Where did that other one go? It was about the debates. You saw it earlier.
That's how to get us on the debates.
Yes. So it was, yeah. How would we get on the debate stage? I can't find the full question, but
how do we get out? I can read it. How do
yeah.
we get you on the debate stage? We need you to go at it with Trump and Biden before we get drawn into a war we can't get out of.
Yes, I totally agree with needing to tear down the war machine. And the quickest way to get on the debate stage is to try to convince one of the other campaigns to ditch the Commission on. Donald Trump said in 2020 that he didn't want to be part of the Commission on Presidential Debates if he ran again because they were too woke and the moderators were too biased to Joe Biden. And so I encourage Donald Trump to ditch the Commission on Presidential Debates. And as the Libertarian candidate, I would join him on stage on a debate stage with the League of Women Voters, a veterans group, heck, any group. Let's just say we'll do 2 debates. He picks one audience, I'll pick the second, and we'll go on stage. And if Joe Biden wants to join us, he's welcome to join us. But if he doesn't, I think we have plenty to run against there. And I'm happy to debate an empty podium. I did it when I ran for U.S. Senate. Herschel Walker was too afraid to get on a debate stage with me. To his credit, Senator Warnock showed up. He didn't like the results very much after I spanked him a little while in the debate. But, I would challenge Donald Trump to ditch them. And I think it's a good idea, actually. It's one of the few things I agree with Republicans on is we should ditch the Commission on Presidential Debates. Quit letting them control the process. Let individual organizations control the process. And candidates can go to whatever debates they deem as fair. And I think what we would see is the wheat separating itself from the chaff and good stuff. So yeah, there we go. That's my answer there is we're going to have to somehow convince the mainline candidates to dump it. If Robert Kennedy wants to effort to dump the Commission on Presidential Debates, he's more than welcome to join me. But frankly, anything else is, just the two-party system being the two-party system. And we're going to have to fight against that upstream battle. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one from YouTube. If you could direct door knockers to target one voting block, would it be Democrats, Republicans, or Independents? Easiest answer ever. It's that third one, Independents. When I ran for Senate, my largest voting block was Independents. They're the people who are most likely to look outside of their little box and say, well, what else is out there? And so, if we were to target one of them with door knocking, being able to identify them, those would be the first people we want to go for. Independents, Gen Z, people who are living below the poverty line because they're the first people to get the boot hardest upon their neck from the state. Those are the people that we want to reach out to. Non-voters, people who feel so apathetic they're not voting anymore. We want to give them something to vote for and something to fight for. So yeah, that would be the biggest voting block we want to go for. By the way, I want to shout it out again. If you want to learn more about our convention, you can go to votechaseoliver.com/convention. We got all sorts of cool stuff there for you to check out. I'll pop up the page there again in a minute. And let's see. I'll let you answer this question first, Amber. Would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck?
Whew. I mean, ducks are kind of solid. I'm going to go with one horse-sized duck.
One horse-sized duck. So one duck that is approximately 900 pounds. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a lot of fun.
Look, I might not look like it, but I used to play soccer and I can still run pretty fast.
Yeah, ducks, unless you're in the water. And now if you're in the water with a horse-sized duck, you're dead. That's like a great white shark. But I think I would go after 100 duck-sized horses. What can they do being this big, right? I mean, even with their little hooves, like what are they going to do? Like, I just run through them, get a broom. Like, I think I could handle 100 little as opposed to one giant duck. Like that terrifies. Honestly, just the visual of a duck-sized horse is funny to me. The visual of a horse-sized duck is terrifying to me. And that's just where I baseline go with it. Birds are like dinosaurs, man. Like they'd be like a little X.
And birds aren't real.
Except birds are not real. They're just a tool of the CIA to spy on all of us. Let's see. We already got the running mate question. Mm-hmm. Yes, they did get Afroman in Alabama.
someone did ask who your favorite U.S. Senate candidate in Florida is.
My favorite U.S. Senate candidate in Florida?
Yep.
Well, that's this lovely woman named Fina Bowen. She's amazing. She's formerly from Hawaii, but then recently moved to Florida to spread her sunshine eastward. She's an amazing fighter for liberty. She's a veteran. And so when she talks about the warfare state, she certainly knows what she's talking about because she's lived it. She's a strong, independent woman who kicks ass, takes names, and will tear down the state. So if you are in Florida and you want to fight for liberty at the top of your ticket, vote Fina. She's awesome. That's definitely a good question to answer. Let's see. This alone will set my vote for you. Kick you in your shins. Yes, they would kick me in my shins, the small horses. This alone will set my vote for you in stone. Do you like Star Wars? Give me 1 second to answer that question for you. Where did it go? My dog is sleeping on it. Delilah, can I see this real quick? Thank you. Oop. Do I like Star Wars? Do I like Star Wars? I don't know. Do I like Star Wars? Do I have a lightsaber and 5 kyber crystals so I can change the color of this thing? Ooh. Yes, this is my lightsaber. I like Star Wars. Big fan. But as folks know, I'm also a hardcore Trekkie. So you can like both, people. It's not like Republicans and Democrats. You can actually like both instead of hating both. Well, you know, that's because I'm not a Sith. I just have a red one. That's just the one that happened to be in there. Usually I rock, actually when I made it, it was a purple blade. Shout out to Samuel L. Jackson. I'm not answering that, Damien. Let's see. I have red, green, blue, purple, white, and yellow as well. I have plenty of different ones. Yep, exactly. Michelle picked up one of those. She was in Disney, and I forgot to get a certain color, and she got it for me. Shout out to Michelle McCutcheon, my volunteer coordinator. She was helping me out even before she was. Let's see. All right. Here's Daryl Perry asking this question here. And he said he asked it before. Sorry, I missed it. He said, asking again. Will you or someone on your team motion to suspend the rules to vote the pay-to-play debate rules and instead use nomination tokens as has been done in the past? Here's what I said at the previous debates. I think the tokens were a good idea in 2020. I don't think they're a bad idea in 2024. I'm the leading candidate right now in the fundraiser, not because I've been super pushing it, but because I think I have the most just generic support from people. And so, I would stand to possibly lose if I were to go to the token thing, but seriously, go for the token thing. Now, I am trying to be a good, I'm a delegate from Georgia, but as a candidate, I've tried to say I'm going to stay out of much of the internal stuff and mostly stick to voting unless I have a clarification to be made or want to speak to an amendment that's already been made. I'm going to avoid making amendments myself because I do believe I can trust the delegates to do that. But I encourage if someone wants to go up and for it, I'll vote for it as a delegate. So, yeah, happy to vote for it. Oh. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Anything we missed?
Let's see. What can I learn from Javier Milei and his struggles as president of Argentina, where his party has minority position in Congress? Is there anything I would emulate from his presidency? I would certainly emulate trying to reduce the size and scope of my office. If I could, fuera, got it right here actually, a fuera sticker. That's going to be the next one that. Just because you asked that question, there's the next one that's going on the old bullhorn here. So, naturally, I would want to emulate that style of getting rid of so much of the excesses of the state as quickly as possible. But, he's already having to work within that minority in his Congress. I would have to similarly do the same and understand that while I'm going to be fighting for the perfect, sometimes the perfect cannot be the enemy of the good. Sometimes you have to understand what that is to build your base. It doesn't mean abandoning your principles. In fact, it means holding true to your principles long enough to be able to get yourself to the bargaining position to actually move the needle towards liberty. And that requires somebody to be steadfast in their principles, but then recognize where compromise is able to be made. But the great thing about being a president who's not of either major party is that you can become the adult in the room that can actually sway with the bully pulpit the direction of our country. I recognize that would be probably my position if I were to be elected, is that I would have maybe some libertarians in Congress, but probably be in the minority position there. But the great thing about those libertarians in Congress is they would have huge sway over who the speaker is, who the party is in control, particularly if we get some House members in there. They can be the difference maker. And so I would urge my fellow libertarians in the legislature to utilize that power as much as possible to push for the best legislative agenda we can get and go from there. I mean, that's how you have to do it. Otherwise, you're just going to be pushing against a wind and anything for it. So still hold true to your principles, but recognize that some things are going to have to happen, but utilize that minority status to your best ability. If it's just 1 or 2 votes that separates who major party is in control, you can then go to them and say, okay, what are you giving us libertarians in exchange for caucusing with you so that, we can elect a speaker to that end. So anyway, I hope that answered the question there. And then, let's see. Here we go. I was told candidates don't want the nominee vote being done on that Friday. How do I feel? Well, I feel like it needs to be done pretty early. I'll be frank with you. When Donald Trump goes on stage at our convention, which I'm not for, frankly, I don't think it's the greatest idea to be giving airtime to the guy we're running against. He certainly is not going to invite us to one of his rallies. I don't think RFK is going to invite us to one of his rallies either. But we need to make sure that we have not a libertarian candidate, but the libertarian candidate right after he speaks, ready to go up and give a hearty rebuttal to the, frankly, mountainous pile of BS he's trying to drop on libertarians. And so I would encourage us to have our president before then, preferably our VP before then as well, so we can be a unified ticket. But I also understand that there's other things that need to be done. I've heard that there are some people who are floating the idea of wanting to change the agenda to LNC elections, president and vice president, and then all the other business such as bylaws, platform, those kinds of things. I think that's probably a better order to do it in because those are the most vital things we need. We do need to elect our party leadership, and we do need to elect our presidential and VP candidates. After that, any platform changes. Okay, we already have a great platform. Any changes could be made better or whatever. Like we could make it slightly better, but that's not as important of a job as getting our leadership elected, getting our presidential and VP candidate elected. And so I think if we can do that quickly, I would support that. I don't know if Friday night is going to happen because so many people will be getting in just on Friday morning. Credentialing will be happening. But certainly by Saturday evening, when Donald Trump speaks, we need to have a nominee. Absolutely. And frankly, we need to be reticent of people who are trying to drag feet because we do not have time to drag feet at this convention. We already have airtime being taken away by Robert Kennedy, Vivek, Trump, and we're going to have lots of other stuff to do. We do not have time to drag feet on things. If you were elected as a delegate in your state, come to Washington, D.C., represent your state, and recognize your state controls your delegation. If you have a problem at credentialing, see your delegate chair and work on it. That's what I encourage everyone to do. Come to D.C. I want to see a full room in D.C. of delegates from across the country. And if you can, get there Thursday through Tuesday, if you can, because it's going to be a busy one.
Daryl Perry had a good one, and you'll like this one, Chase. In your opinion, who's the greatest pro wrestling champion of all time, and why is it vacant?
Why is it vacant? Who's the greatest pro wrestling champion of all time? Well, I'm going to have to go back to my childhood for that one, Daryl. I'm a big fan of Bret the Hitman Hart. Was one of my favorites as a kid. He's gotten a little bitter in his old age. And so I'm going to move that to it's the WCW championship that I really think of as the real world's championship. And that's Ric Flair. He's the greatest of all time, even though he's personally had some troubles lately. Stay off the sauce, Rick, and stay out of the bar. But you are the man. kiss, stealing, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun. Don't make me do my Dusty Rhodes impression at convention. I'll do it if you donate $1,000 to my campaign at convention. So I'll make that promise to you. Here we go. Snyder for Florida. This one came through X. Do I feel the party voting for the VP rather than allowing me to pick my VP is problematic for a campaign? The truth be told is most of the time the candidate gets the VP they want. I think it's only happened a couple times where there hasn't been a clear preference, and that might have caused problems. But for me, you know, if I'm the nominee, I'm going to anybody who wants to run for VP. I'm going to pick who I think is the best, and I'll let them know who I think that should be. I will let my preference be known before the voting occurs. I don't know how long before that voting occurs. I don't know how long I'm going to have to look for people and vet and do all that stuff. And I am doing that, you guys, in addition to calling delegates all the time. By the way, free plug. Let me do this. I'm going to put it up here in just a second. Let me do another new one. If you go to votechaseoliver.com/book, votechaseoliver.com/book, right there, you can book a 15-minute phone call with me as a delegate. I want to hear from as many delegates as possible before the convention. So if you go right now to votechaseoliver.com/book, you can book a 15-minute phone call with me if I don't answer your question here and you want to speak to me directly. As a delegate, I want to hear from you. So please go there. Yes, I will, Daryl. That is the exact promo I will do. votechaseoliver.com/book. Now, how do I think Trump should be challenged at convention? Thank you for that question, Joel. Ideally, he wouldn't be at our convention, but because it's our convention and we should be highlighting libertarian candidates, not giving him airtime. But if he were to come to our convention, the only thing that I would think would be acceptable, really, is if he came to debate. But he's not coming to debate. He's not coming to do that. He is coming to say what he's going to say, and we will have a chance to rebut that, but it's not going to be a direct interaction. I think a direct debate would be obviously the best way to interact with Donald Trump on a stage, but he's just not going to do that because he's chicken. He's a coward. He didn't even debate Republicans in this round. And he was going to clearly, like, the only reason he didn't is because he knew that if he did, he'd start losing ground because people would start seeing how ridiculous he is. And so he's like, I'm the lead. I'm not going to do my thing. I'm just going to stay off the debate stage. And that's what he did. He cowered up in Trump Tower or Mar-a-Lago or wherever. It's funny that he challenged Joe Biden and said Joe Biden was campaigning out of his basement last time when, you know, this guy couldn't even be bothered to go debate like Ron DeSantis. Come on. You know, my grandma could beat Ron DeSantis in a debate and she's been dead for years. So, you know, the fact that Trump couldn't even be bothered to fight also ran Republicans. If you can't take Nikki Haley on a stage, how are you gonna drain the swamp and fight the state? You can't even fight Nikki Haley. So to me, he doesn't have the cojones to debate. But that would be the best way to challenge him at our convention. We're gonna have to set up a rebuttal, by the way. And if I am your candidate for president, best believe it's going to be an energetic rebuttal. And our campaign team is going to be watching everything he says very closely so we can rebut the stupid points he makes in real time in addition to his general BS that he's about to spew. Snyder for Florida says, hoping to campaign with you this summer. I'm hoping to campaign with libertarian candidates all over the country this summer. And if you're my running mate, if someone becomes my running mate, not that that's what you meant, but if someone's my running mate, whenever they are, they're going to be campaigning with you and others all summer too, Dan. So I'm looking forward to getting out and supporting candidates all over the country who are libertarians, pushing libertarian solutions in their communities. Broadly speaking, pushing the message of your life is your life, your body is your body, your business is your business, and your property is your property.
Let me piggyback off of that one real quick. Mr. Soto had asked, will you be working to get local elections won, mayor, councilman, school board, and how do you plan to get people to register to vote and actually vote?
So the first part is, yes, I'm absolutely going to be supporting these local candidates down to door knocking with them and helping to have rallies in their towns so that we can push their elections and have them speak in front of the media and get their name out there as much as possible. That's one of the goals of running for president is you have to be basically the party PR officer who's helping to put that positive PR forward. First and foremost, you don't want to be embarrassing for those down ballot candidates. You want to run a professional race that is principled, that is passionate, And that's not push or rhetoric out there that's going to force those people to be alienated or have to explain away what the presidential candidate does. That's your first thing to do, is don't be embarrassing. But second is like, get out there amongst those candidates, knock on the doors with them, and help get the media lens on them as much as possible. Like I said, if they're on the 1 yard line, I think maybe I said this I was in a little happy hour earlier, but if there's a candidate who's on the 1 yard line and our campaign can help push them over to the end zone, absolutely, we're going to help them do that. We're going to identify and target those really winnable races and put our money where our mouth is there, and really be traveling to those races, be traveling to those candidates, and supporting those that we need. Let's see. I saw one. Where did it go? Not answering internal questions about races, you guys. You guys are delegates. You'll have to decide for yourself who you want on the LNC. I'll be voting as a candidate or as a delegate, but I'm leaving the internal stuff to you guys. I trust that if I'm bringing in the delegates I need to win the nomination, I trust the delegates are also going to do a great job at everything else.
Alex,
this is a good one.
Okay, good.
What are some specific goals and plans you have for the campaign should I win the nomination? First, we're going to be going out and trying to speak to young audiences as much as possible. And while that does include college tours and the traditional speaking to students, it also means speaking to young people in other places. Not every young person goes to college. Most don't go to college. A lot jump right into the workforce. And so we're going to have to look to find ways to reach out to Gen Zers who are blue collar, who are getting right out there in the trenches and doing their, living their lives, raising their families. And so that is our biggest target audience is going to be that next generation of voters, to try to bring them in. But some specific goals we have, we want to double our party's membership, at least. This is something that generally happens in a presidential election year. But what makes our campaign different is I'm committing to not just be doing this through November. If I'm our nominee, we're going to at least double our membership, hopefully triple it or quadruple it or whatever we can do. But I want to maintain that over the next 4 years. So whoever our nominee is in 2028 has the wind in their sails. They have more activists. They have more door knockers. They have more donors. They have more party ex-com members. And also, I don't know if you guys feel the same comms and on state parties before. Burnout is real, right?
Very real.
Yeah. There's not a state that I go to where there's, every convention I've gone to, there's at least one person who's like, yeah, I'm not running for re-election, man. I just got to take some time off. There's too much going on. And I feel that, and so let's give them more people to get into the party as members, so that way we can refresh that blood. We can have new people jumping in on our XCOM or serving on committees or helping to build our party foundation up. So that's a real tangible goal I have for this campaign, is to at least double our membership, if not more, and stay committed enough to staying involved in the party, maintaining it. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to go live my life after this election. I'm not going to flee to another party. I'm not just going to write a book and write off into the sunset. I'm going to stay deeply committed into this party the way I have been, for over 10 years now. This is nothing new to me to stay involved in the party, but I'm committing to you as a presidential candidate that I'm going to stay committed at the top line level to encourage our LNC, our new LNC, to stay engaged with these new voters. And I'm also issuing that voter data out, sending it out directly to each state. So each state party is going to get that voter data in real time, so they can help me stay connected with those voters. So we can help them build new affiliates in those states, so they can strengthen our party across the country. This is about building our foundation up so we can start to tear the state down. That's the real goal of this campaign, beyond libertarian message and pushing the Overton window towards liberty. I saw one on native rights earlier. They asked me what...
Alex Keller asked, what are your thoughts on native rights?
There we go. There it is. Well, my thoughts on native rights are native populations have been getting screwed governments in this country since the smallpox blankets showed up, since we really got started with this whole thing. I would like to see us honor our treaties with our Native American communities in terms of allowing them to be able to run their governments the way they want to, separated from the state as much as possible. And as far as, ways we can kind of return some federal land back to maybe these communities too. We have lots of federal land that's no one's private property. It's just owned by the government. We could return some of these to these communities to let them have their own sovereign land. And frankly, if a native tribe wants to secede from the United States, we should absolutely support that. What we need to quit doing is quit putting our thumb on these native communities and pushing our values onto them, and pushing them further down the line. We've been so abusive to Native communities, and I've met several in my travels, across the country, and all of them are extremely distrustful of government. They are natural libertarians if we just reach out to them and tell them, hey, there are better solutions out there than trying to suck up to the federal government to try to get yours. We should just be fighting to give you yours and leaving you alone. And if that means full secession included, I would support it. Let's see. Let's see. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and shout this out. I don't know if I'm going to make it there, you guys, but shout out to Madison, Wisconsin. If you're in the Madison, Wisconsin area, go to the Midwest Hemp Fest on September 28th and 29th. Sounds like a good time. I always love a good hemp fest. Make sure you get out there and support the libertarian message. Hey, if I can't make it there, maybe you should be wearing Chase Oliver for President hoodies and go out there and get some volunteer action going on. Would love to see that in Wisconsin. And so, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to make it. Our schedule does not appear out of nowhere. It gets made by a committee of people these days because that's the way campaigns work. But definitely let us know more information about that. Send that to info@votechaseoliver.com. We'll take a look and see what we can do. That's the other thing. Generally, guys, if you want to reach out to the campaign, info@votechaseoliver.com is the great first place to get started. If you have any questions, commentary, things like that, any shenanigans going on at convention, let us know. Certainly. I'm trying to see another one. Oh, here's a good one. Mike Maines. See this question? Look at that one. If I could ask Joe Biden a question, what would it be? Same for Donald Trump and RFK Jr. Okay, let me think on this a little bit. While I do, let me just pull another random sticker out of the pile. Ooh, this is a good one. Abolish the TSA. We'll throw that one on there, and I'll tell my TSA story after this question. If I could ask Joe Biden a question, what's it like being a war criminal? You could really ask that to Joe Biden or Donald Trump. Do the cries of the innocents in Gaza dying, do those screams fill your dreams at night? How does it feel to say that we should have abandoned the protectionist policies of Donald Trump, but you've doubled down on them? There's a lot of questions I could ask Joe Biden. I could ask Donald Trump the same question about being a warmonger, a war criminal. Ask Donald Trump, hey, why did you pardon that drug dealer and then say you wanted to put drug dealers to death? Here's the questions we need to be asking Donald Trump since he's coming to the convention. And feel free to tell me he's full of shit to say things like, if I'm elected, I'm going to pardon Ross Ulbricht, or I'm going to pardon Edward Snowden or Julian Assange. Remember that the guy had 4 years to do all of that. He had 4 years to do all of it. The dude didn't even pardon the January 6th people, and he had 14 days to do it. He could have pardoned all of them if he cared about them. He doesn't even care about the people who capital for him. So you think he cares about you? He doesn't care about you. He cares about himself. If I was Donald Trump, I would ask him, I don't know, something along the lines of, why did you feel the need to expand the drone policies that were already a shame under Obama, killing innocent people around the world? Why did you feel the need to kowtow, at the Helsinki conference and just seem like such a beaten dog? What's it like being the president who increased the debt more than any other president in a single year? Why did you lock down and listen to Anthony Fauci? There's a lot of questions I could ask Trump. RFK, what questions would I ask him? I don't know. Why did you say that you wanted to put people in jail for speaking rhetoric that you didn't support with regards to climate change? Why do you want to ban, why do you want to ban what people do on their own property in terms of energy exploration with natural gas? Why do you want to cripple our economy with letting the government be in charge of green technology? Why do you support the war criminals in Gaza and what's going on over there with the genocides over there? A lot of things I could ask Robert Kennedy. But thank you for the question. And these are the questions we as voters need to be asking all of them as we hold them to task and support the Libertarian nominee. Let's see. I'm trying to find, so let me see. I'm trying not to double up on everyone's questions. I'm trying to give everyone a chance to ask one question. And I see several from some other people, and I might get to them in just a minute. There we go. I disagree with the first part. I mean, maybe first part of this question. RFK has done a good job of discussing issues that Biden and Trump won't touch. What issues important to working Americans could I highlight and champion? Well, there are several issues that the two-party system refuses to touch because they like to keep fighting those battles. One of the big ones that's near and dear to my heart is both ending the drug war completely and stopping the victimization of addicts to be put into the prison pipeline. Actually addressing addiction as communities, as a medical intervention, not as a law enforcement criminal justice intervention. Yes. So that would be probably one of the biggest ones I would push because it cripples so many communities. Think about this. So many people who are ODing and dying. We hear about the opioid crisis and fentanyl all the time. And when we hear about fentanyl overdoses, one of the biggest misconceptions I think some voters have is that that person was meaning to do fentanyl. Most of the time they weren't. Most of the time they thought they were taking a Xanax. They thought they were doing a hit of heroin, something like that. But it was really fentanyl that was spiked into it, which is much more deadly, right? In a world with a drug war that is where we fully decriminalize drugs, if you're a user, you can go to a pharmacy and pay a small fee and have them test your drug to know what's in it. That alone, just that alone, would prevent so many overdoses if we reduce the stigma around addiction. Then there's direct and mutual aid. I want to shout out Shred the Stigma Oklahoma. I always do whenever we talk about direct and mutual aid. They're an organization that actually hands out free Narcan, fentanyl testing strips, condoms, lube, clean needles. And what this has done is it has allowed for safer usage for those who are still using, but it has also allowed for a human connection to those people. So when they want to get clean, they know who to go to get those resources to get clean. They have that intervention ready and willing for them. But it's also had the added effect of he's saved I think he's nearing on 1,500 people. I think it was over 1,300 last time I saw lives that have been saved because he's passed out Narcan and it's prevented overdoses. It's 1,300 souls that wouldn't be on this earth otherwise to be able to get clean one day. And so it's that kind of direct and mutual aid in our communities that's going to go real far away in addressing addiction, not throwing people in jail. The other big issue is criminal justice reform, man. If you're a working class stiff, if you're a guy who's living paycheck to paycheck and you get in trouble with the law, with the government, with the law, let me tell you, the scale of justice is not equal. It is pushed against you. It is weighed heavily against you. Because if you don't have the means to fight back, you're left with terrible public defenders. But even more so, you're left with mandatory minimums, all kinds of, forcing people to take plea deals, even when they're not guilty, because of how gummed up the criminal justice system is and how long you would have to rot in prison before you could get out. The cash bail system. So many things involved in our criminal justice system are abusive to the working man and put the onus on them as opposed to the government. It's no longer innocent until proven guilty in many cases with the way the government treats people in a court of law. And so we need real justice reform for the working men and women of this country who are most under the thumb of our government in a real way. Let's see. You know what? I'm going to take a couple of second questions from people because I see a couple of good ones. This one's easy. What Washington, D.C. attraction monument are you most looking forward to seeing if I have time to explore? I'm not going to have time to explore, but if I did, it would be the Air and Space Museum, you guys. It's pretty awesome. I recommend it. I've been there before. It's really cool. And if you have kids and you're bringing your family and your spouse is not doing the libertarian thing, it's a great place to take your kids, especially. Oh, yeah. If you have a kid who likes planes, oh, my God. They'll be there for the entire day. You probably can leave them there the entire convention. They won't miss you. Let's see. Next question. Do I think veteran suicides need more attention? Absolutely, veteran suicides need attention. One of the reasons why I'm so ardently anti-war is because I've seen the mental health crisis that's been created by our that's been created by our foreign policy. And I want to help those veterans who are suffering. Absolutely. One of the things we can do is, I want to make sure that if you're under veterans care, not only do you have to rely on just the VA hospital system, you should be able to more easily access mental or physical health care that's closer to you if possible. If it's going to be better for you, we should remove any red tape around you going to see what's best health care for you as a veteran. One of the few things I do think we should spend government money on as a military, and part of that is helping our veterans who are injured on the battlefield when they get back home. And so, I would like to create less veterans by having less wars. But I think naturally we need to address the problems that are going on in our veteran communities. One of those things is actually ending the war on drugs so that we can allow for psilocybin, MDMA, and ketamine treatments that have been shown to be proven to help with mental health breakthroughs where people can address the issues that they've been going through. But federally, all of those things are controlled substances and not allowed to be used for veterans, even if they live in a state that allows for those therapies, because they're a federal worker, they're a federal employee essentially, and they're using federal health care as veterans, even if they're out of the service. They're not accessing those therapies that could be vital for their mental health care. Of course, we need to be talking about it. We need to be creating less veterans so we have less veterans who are injured and less veterans who are killing themselves. And I will be supporting that. Just because I'm anti-war to the core does not mean I'm anti-military. In fact, I think it's actually pro-military to not want to send people over to fight and die in wars that are unneeded. Let's see. I did not get a chance to see the Air Force Museum. Let me see. Where did it go? I had another one from Dan that I wanted to answer. Where did it go? There it is. What are my thoughts on the recent bills using the humanitarian crisis of the border as a way to pump up appropriations for congressional seats? I don't know the specific instance you're talking about, Dan, but what I can say is this: as I hate when the two-party system uses a crisis to enrich themselves. And it's what we see so much in our country, whether it's the crisis going on at the border, at our southern border, whether it's the warfare state or anything. It's we've seen congressmen who dumped Boeing stock the day before their committee announced what was going on with Boeing. Like, we see insider trading going on all the time in the Congress just to enrich themselves. Pork in their district. The warfare state is a perfect example of that. Why do we see so much of this waste coming out of the military industrial complex? Why do we build so many weapon systems we don't need and this equipment we don't need that ends up rotting in and equipment graveyards around the country? Well, it's because they build those things in multiple congressional districts that when they get a contract for the military industrial complex, when Boeing or Raytheon or one of the others, Northrop Grumman, when they get their contract, well, that's spread them out. It's a bunch of different congressional districts that they have to bribe and cajole and say, well, if you don't give us this weapon systems. It's really just a horrible, corrupt system. And the best we can do right now is expose it until we grow and unite enough and foundationally grow enough to build our party up to actually win elected office. And once we do, we have to hold them to account. We have to be as transparent as possible where the dollars are going. And we have to be willing to fight using every tool we have, if elected, to stop this kind of grift, this kind of pork. As I say all the time, pork belongs in sandwiches, not in Washington, D.C. Support your barbecue pulled pork sandwiches, you guys, and fight the pork that's coming out of D.C. You're welcome, Trish, for the veteran stuff. I think it is important to all of us, but it's important to you as a veteran. And I know that community really needs all the support they can get, because they're certainly not getting it from the authoritarian warmongers out there. What is my stance on? Oh, this is a good one. What's my stance from Mountain Dew 97122? I like that screen name. What is my stance on immunity, qualified and judicial? Remove it. Sorry, you don't get to have immunity from when you do wrong at your job just because you're wearing a badge or part of the judicial system. If you're done wrong in a court of law, you should be able to seek recompense. And qualified immunity prevents that for so many. The other thing I would pair with that is that you have to have liability insurance for police officers, because otherwise, if you end qualified immunity without that, you're going to having a lot of lawsuits, and that money will be taken out of other taxpayer services. I'd rather it come out of those insurance policies, because that's a free market mechanism. If you screw up too many times, you cause too many payouts, you become uninsurable, and basically you can no longer be a cop anymore. So I think that's probably a good idea to help have a free market mechanism to get bad cops off the streets, and to let people hold those who have a badge or are elected or who are serving as a judge accountable when they do wrong. Absolutely, the people should be equal in the eyes of the law, not holding one standard for police and one's to other. Next one I just pulled out of the hat. Abolish the CIA. That one is going on the bullhorn right now. Let's see. Is there the pork in DC is super overpriced. Everything in DC is super overpriced, Tommy. That's just unfortunately the nature of the world we live in, especially with Washington, D.C. Everything is expensive there. Parking is expensive. This is why I recommend delegates carpool. It's way easier to pay for one car at $50 a day parking than 3 or 4 cars at $50 a day parking. You know, ooh, I got this special sticker, you guys. My sparkly sticker. It says abolish the ATF. That's going to go in a prominent place. I think that's going to go right here on the mouthpiece. Did I watch the LP candidate last night?
The chair debate.
I watched a little bit of it. I did not finish it. I am not endorsing any candidates for any offices, but I'm thankful for those who showed up to debate. Thanks, David Fight, for hosting it. It gave me information as a delegate. But I'm going to let you guys watch that and all the other things that are going on and make that decision for yourself. I'm not going to wade into internal fighting because my job is to unify our party as the presidential candidate. And, you know, people's feelings get hurt if you endorse one candidate over another or start saying that. And I'm not here to hurt feelings, particularly with the national party, because my campaign, I believe I'm going to be the nominee, is going to have to, seek the help of the national party, whomever they are. And so I'm not going to sit here and play favorites. I'm going to let you guys play favorites. So unfortunately, I don't really have much of an answer for that question. But, you know, whoever is running the LP, I hope they're ready to help support this campaign as much as possible and be a real alternative to Donald Trump, Joe Biden, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., as well as all the others. The double vote counting controversy in Fulton County. You know, don't know a lot about it. The truth is if someone thinks that because of double voting, maybe that Donald Trump would have won Fulton County, they don't know Fulton County. It's probably the bluest district in the whole state. Do I think there were election shenanigans going on in 2020? There's some measure of shenanigans going on in every election. That's just the way elections work. Do I think it was enough to change the outcome? No. I think lost Georgia in 2020. As much as that might hurt his fragile ego to hear, he did. You know, I don't believe that the state with the Republican Secretary of State and the Republican governor and a Republican majority in the House and the Senate conspired to take the election away from the Republican nominee for president. Just Occam's razor says that doesn't really jive. As I've said before, your body, your choice. Do I have any plans to undo the outrageous laws put in place after Roe v. Wade is overturned? I support the right to choose up until the point of viability. After viability, I believe there's the standard of the life of the mother. And I support the Hyde Amendment. No federal funds going to fund abortion. It's a pretty standard platform. It's where Joe Biden was before the left part of his party forced him leftward to drop the Hyde Amendment. Now, he's all fine with federal funds going to fund it. It's where I'm at right now is where most of America's at. Make your own choices, make your own determination to the point of viability. And then after that, it is, health of the mother, life of the mother. Those are the situations that we need to do now. What I will say is, I don't have to do a whole lot. The voters are undoing a lot of that themselves. Anywhere that abortion has gone on the ballot, even in deep red states, you're seeing people supporting the right of choose and the right of bodily autonomy. Here's a good one. Are hot dog sandwiches? No. You see, because a sandwich has 2 slices of bread and the contents between it. A taco has a shell that goes around the contents. And so a hot dog is just an American taco. Let's see.
We'll scroll back up to the top and see if there's any we missed up.
Yeah, there's some, like we had a bunch scroll by as we were talking. Here we go. Polls say the economy is the top voting issue. It always is. So what's a good press-worthy pitch to get some attention for your libertarian fix for inflation? Well, the first way we stop inflation is we stop printing dollars out of thin air. So the first way we can address inflation as a government is to balance the budget, to stop printing trillions of dollars to pay our bills that we don't have the money for. That would have a market effect on inflation nearly overnight. And so I'm running on a balanced budget. If I were elected president, I would veto any budget that is not balanced, at least, if not creating a surplus. And then you would pair that with sane monetary policy, wanting to get our money back to being backed by something that's finite. Whether it's gold or silver or, saffron or whatever, pick something and let's tag it to that finite resource. And that would be a much better way to handle our money than this fiat currency system that we have. And then, of course, the two things we need to pair with that is the ability to separate your currency from the state altogether via Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency. And absolutely 100% opposing, die hard, every fiber of your being opposing CBDCs, because CBDC, central bank digital currency, will be the first step towards completely ending a cash society. And a cash society is a cashless society is one where the government can determine and spy on every single thing you buy, every bit you spend. And that is not a free nation. We need to oppose CBDCs 100%. And I hope that can gather, hopefully, a media splash. We tell people your entire privacy will be stolen from you if we keep making these moves. I think that's something worth shouting to the rooftops, don't you?
There's another question kind of piggybacking off of that one from Josh. It was earlier. Libertarians struggle to get attention or even acknowledgments from media. Are you willing to get arrested for the cause?
I've been arrested for causes. It's not scary to me. If I need to be arrested for a cause, I'm absolutely willing to do that. Like I just said, peaceful nonviolent resistance and civil disobedience comes with consequences. You guys, you have to be willing to live with those consequences. That's part of having the cojones to do it, is being willing to put yourself forward and suffer those consequences. And if it means, having to face the forces of the state head on, and if that comes with consequences, unfortunately, I'll have to live with those. But that's what happens when you fight for freedom, man. Like, you can't be willing to not step in the arena if you're not willing to face those things. And so, absolutely, 100%, I'm willing to do what it takes for our party to get noticed and for us to fight for the message of freedom. But do so in a peaceful, nonviolent way. That's the main thrust of it. Here's a good one. What's your solution for actually paying down or off the debt, not just ending inflation? Thank you, Orthodox Moore. First thing, I don't want to start by paying this down with tax increases or with the taxpayers' money. I would like to balance the budget, but the first way we can start paying down the debt, as I mentioned before, we have a lot of federal land. And not all of it we would be giving away to natives or anything like that. But what we could do is we could start a gradual sell-off of this property and make it into private property. Allow individuals to develop that land as they see fit, and use and earmark every dollar that is made from that towards paying down the debt and the deficit, or the debt rather. You would have to do this under a balanced budget process. So once you have the budget balanced, then you start selling off federal land to actually start refilling the federal, paying down the debt. Now, you're not going to get all $34 trillion with that, but that first initial down payment on the debt should be coming from the government themselves. Just like when we're in debt, when I'm in debt, right, I have to pay using my assets, what I have. I can't steal from my neighbor and then pay with that. I mean, I could, but it would be immoral. And so our government has to pay down their debt. And the way they start doing that is with their assets, their property, their land. Sell it off and tack that towards paying down the debt. That's where the first initial payments are going to have to come from. Eventually, there is going to have to be a budget surplus created to start paying down the debt in a gradual manner year over year. But that's going to come, after we get the budget balanced, after we get our financial house in order. And in the meantime, we can start paying off federal lands and sending that off into the private market. Thank you for the question, though. Let's see. I think I'm going to do one. We're at what, an hour and a half here. So I'm going to go one more question here. And you know what? This is a good question, I think. How would I feel about forming a coalition with other smaller parties to get onto the debates? I'll do whatever I can to get people. I'm not scared of having a Green Party on stage with me. I've debated the Green Party candidate. I'm not afraid of being on a debate stage with Robert Kennedy Jr. or Cornel West. I think our libertarian principles can stand up to them, as well as my ability to communicate those principles. I think I can do that fairly well. So I'd love to form a coalition to try to get into the debates. You know, if there's a means for us to do that, I would be willing to listen to it and see what we can do. Anything that we can to spread the libertarian message far and wide. So yeah, thank you for that question. I want to say, you guys, if you could go to votechaseoliver.com/convention right now, check out our convention page. If you're a delegate, we want to hear from you. You can book a call with us by going to votechaseoliver.com/book as well. Amber, thank you for helping me kind of weed through comments. I know, you know, it was a good time. I enjoyed having you on. Thank you for helping me kind of find things as I needed to.
No problem.
She's the best. She is the best coordinator in the game. She does it so well. She makes sure that everybody knows where I'm at, what I'm doing, making sure that I'm speaking to the right people. And if you're a podcast or a show out there who I've worked with or wants to work with me, this is the person you're going to have to work through, is the lovely Amber Howell. Thank you so much for coming on.
If you have suggestions on what podcast or media you want to see Chase on, please send me an email. I'm always open to suggestions.
Yep. And, you know, the comment's not here, but I've heard the comment. Have you tried to get on Joe Rogan? You know, I think we've been trying that for 4 years as Liberty. Yes, of course I would go on Joe Rogan. Here we go. Last question tonight. Am I a real libertarian? Well, I've been called not a real libertarian enough times where I think I am fully a real libertarian. Now, I think anybody who wants to reduce the size, scope, and abuses of the state, generally speaking, have a libertarian streak in them. Can we make them into more hardcore libertarians? Go from little L to big L? Absolutely we can. But we do that by being welcoming to people, by bringing them in the tent and connecting their libertarian ideas, if they have one or two, with the greater philosophy of liberty. That's the kind of campaign I'm trying to run, you guys, is one that's positive, outward-facing, and bringing new libertarians into the movement so we can grow, survive, and thrive into the next generation. If you want to help me do this, join the campaign to votechaseoliver.com today. Become a donor supporter. Become a volunteer. We have over 500, and we're growing. But please go to votechaseoliver.com. Thank you, Dan. Donate, volunteer, and learn more at votechaseoliver.com. Please go there, and we hope to see so many of you when we go to the convention a little later on this month. We look forward to participating in our convention, winning our nomination, and fighting on through November for a world that is more free, prosperous, and respecting everyone's right to live as they live in peace. And so I'm going to end this stream. I'm going to say bye to Amber. Everybody say bye, Amber. I'm going to drop here off the studio, and I'm going to wish you all goodbye and say the same thing that I say to everyone when I speak to them as I leave the conversation. I wish each and every one of you, there's 502 people watching right now. We're going to have more live streams like this in the future so that we can continue to have these conversations as the Libertarian candidate for president. But in the meantime, I wish each and every one of you out there a life of peace, a life of love, liberty. Good night.